This is Paul's church. My name is Nash. I have something I need to tell everyone, and it's going to make a lot of people angry. Though I'm not opposed or a stranger to doing that. America is not a Christian nation. America has never been a Christian nation, and America never can be a Christian nation. I don't particularly care for the opinions of political philosophers or politico theorists because it's not a political thing. America, in its founding, was founded as a country of freedom, liberty, where you can have your pursuit of happiness, seek justice. How is that biblical? In our founding, we waged a violent uprising and revolutionary war against the largest crown on earth. What does the Bible say about that? Where does the Bible say that you should take it into your own hands to fight against a violent oppressor for your own freedom, whatever freedom that is? If I recall right, in the epistles, Paul talks about slaves being good slaves to their masters. If we waged war for freedom, that must mean we weren't free in the first place. And many people would probably argue that we were slave to the crown. There's two things to this. One, so what? So what? This is not our home. This is not where we stay. This is all illusory. This is a hologram, is a vapor, a ghost. Paul has mentioned many of those. Peter has said this is illusory. This is like vapor. But we are so tied to this world that we will do exactly what we're not supposed to and validate it with the Bible. Tell me that's not heresy. And in fact, saying that I know more than God verges on blasphemy. Currently, America is not remotely Christian. We allow women to kill their children in the womb. We encourage it at some points and we provide it for them via tax dollars. This isn't a matter of opinion. Abortion is murder. He knew you knitted in your mother's womb. He knew you were alive in your mother's womb and had plans for you in your mother's womb. If you argue for abortion as a Christian, you are anathema and I spit you from my mouth. But we celebrate that. Why? Because America has become the new church. I'm writing an epistle to the churches in my area where I will hand deliver them a written copy. Excuse me, my allergies. It's still on. But America has taken over the church, and the church let it happen. Because now that, in the name of equality, under what I don't know, in progress towards what I still don't know, and suffrage, whatever that means, we've allowed women to become leaders in the church. Paul says not to do that. But we're in the name of equality we did, which is what America prescribed for women, not the church. And through that, we've allowed them to now accept killing their own children as a non-sinful act, where we've accepted the homosexual and transsexual agenda to now completely go inside of the world with America's largest Protestant denomination as a champion it. It's obvious I said this in the last episode. Homosexuality and all of its extras are sin, and it's bad. You cannot be sanctified while openly sinning. You cannot be sanctified seeking sin. You cannot be sanctified by excusing obvious, explicit sin. And the church does that because America is the church. You can only celebrate the church through America. What do you mean? You can't start a church and not pay taxes unless you fill out certain forms. If you want to take a collection plate, you have to report that to the IRS. If you do it regularly enough, of course. What's Christian about that? Being disabled from taking a collection to help those in need. Make sure daddy government gets it. Meanwhile, the government has literally not done its job that it told us it was going to do: protect us. Our country has been invaded by foreign members of other countries. I'm not political. I'll say this: if they are seeking a better place, I do the same thing. That being said, we've made it so the people that live here have to live under the law, while anybody else can enter here and do whatever they want. I am not allowed, but they are. I can't be provided, but they will be. The sooner you realize that America is not a Christian country, the better off you will be. And will be freed from those sins and those chains that bind you to the law that we ran away from, the very law that Paul talks about needing to be out of the church, in the law that Christ came to die for. Because America isn't Christian, it's Judeo Christian. And Judea was captured by Babylon, where they practiced Moloch, the sacrifice of children, and prayed to Ishtar, the divine feminine god of the hunt, in progress for moving forward in life. And what that has done is taken men out of the church and has turned the church into just a gossip center for women, a place where women can come and talk to each other and have their events, while men have to work. Look at your local church. Look at a couple local churches, because I've not been to all of them. I can't be to all of them, so I can't say this about all of them. But if I were to wager, most people in your church are probably above the age of 60 and women. Now, they deserve salvation too. They deserve sanctification. They deserve to come to church. Church is a hospital for the spiritually sick, but you have to respond to treatment. And what has happened is the sick ward is filled with people who refuse to get better, while people who need to go to the hospital are waiting in the waiting room, slowly withering away because the world is taking them with them. We have people in the church who are absorbing resources and maintaining positions of power for nothing but selfish deeds, like the women who were taking money from the coffers of the widows to puff themselves up. Well, since we're not having more young women, we have older women there, and they're doing the same thing. But instead of taking care of widows, we're not taking care of families. We have completely removed men from the church. And now men are working in a world that hates them. Men have been relegated to the real slaves, where we are lucky to even be able to provide for ourselves. The church has failed the family because they sat by and let the country that they are so patriotic to destroy the very family unit that they're designed to take care of. Instead of the charity being led by the church, we allowed it to be given to the government. Instead of purpose being given to by the church, we were given it to by the country. And instead of having a sense of community in the church, we have this pseudo sense of patriotism, which just really equates down to people agreeing that their sports team is better than the other sports team, and we can argue about it because of free speech. Meanwhile, women are selling themselves to provide for themselves and are having children die in their care because they cannot take care of them, either spiritually, mentally, or physically. There are stories of women who are streaming and their children starving to death because they forgot to take care of them. America is disgusting. America is evil, nothing but. The system survives off of taking advantage of those who don't have and killing people. We were founded on killing people. We continue to kill people. We are perpetuated by our ability to determine who lives or die. Because if you mess with America, you'll get nuked. What's American? American is validating what you're doing is right, even though it's wrong, because you believe in God and because the president believes in God. Everybody wants to split hairs over thou shalt not kill being thou shalt not murder, and murder being for personal gain. If your country is your church and your country tells you to kill, you're killing for personal gain. There are no justified wars. So, how can America ever become a Christian country? It can't. What's Christian about killing people to sustain yourself? About putting women to their unnatural uses and murdering children in the womb? And relegating men to chattel slavery for not just physical desire, but also how to provide for themselves. And also to feel self worth. Men are only as good as they can provide. Well, I'll have you know, I'm disabled now. America is not good. It is not Christian. There's nothing Christian about it other than that they claim it to be. Give me one thing that is Christian about America. And you know where you have to get that from? The Bible. Because if you do not have a biblical faith, you do not have my faith. And I spit you from my mouth. It's time to get people uncomfortable. America has never been, is not now, and can never be biblically Christian. And that is the only Christian that matters. This is a call to action. Tell your pastors this. Show your pastors this. Ask them, what Bible verse does it say to commit acts of violence and murder and atrocities for the sake of a country? Remember, we are under the new covenant in the New Testament. We're not called for crusades. Speaking of which, unjustified. We are to be the salt of the earth, and if we lose our saltiness, we should be thrown to the ground for them to walk on us, so that their feet might not get dirty. Not kill for the American way. We should be giving our money and tithes to the church so we may use it for charity and to provide for the families in need, not paying taxes to abort children. We shouldn't be killing anyone to perpetuate ourselves. To live as Christ is to die as gain. Yeah, that means you, Second Amendment people. And speaking of amendments, if you are speaking discouragement and violence towards someone else, The First Amendment. You're anathema, and I spit you from my mouth. What authority do I have to say these things? The Bible gives me full justification. And it's obvious that Christians today don't read the Bible because I am justified by St. Paul saying, the word, the gospel, and his sacrifice justify me. You need to get in your church pastors and leaders' faces and say, why do you not believe a biblical Christianity, and why do you not lead a biblical church? Who are you to say that the Bible is wrong? And if they can't answer you, go to the next church and do the same thing. I know 2 churches, maybe 1, and of course it's mine, but I am where I am because of it. No, it's not perfect either. Never will be. Can't be, actually. But I'm sustained by them. This isn't my home. This is a charity for me so that my child has some place to stay. America has done nothing but discourage and make it impossible to live a sinless life. You cannot exist in America, even as a vagabond, and not commit heinous sins against Christ himself. Because why don't men show up to church? That's sinful. We are called to gather. And why don't men show up to Sunday school? Because Sunday school is normally ran by women who want to gossip about their life. I say, my favorite book is Romans. She says, I hate Romans. It's scary. It tells me to do too many things. I say, I love a Proverbs 31 wife, and nobody can tell me what that is. The most important commandments, most Christians can't even tell me. It's obvious. Christians don't read the Bible, and that's why we are the way we are now. And that's why the church was sold out to America, and that's why the church is dying. I'm writing an epistle to churches. You should too. Ask them simply, why don't you lead a biblical church? Why don't you exercise your authority to lead a biblical church? That's what you are there for. And if you do not, there's a certain verse for you. There is extra punishment for church leaders that do not lead a biblical church and have left others to damnation or untoward suffering, or if you've misled them biblically. This has to change. And until people realize that it has to change, it won't change. And until it doesn't change, it's only going to continue to get worse. And if you don't think it's bad now, that's because it doesn't affect you yet. It's going to. And while we know what's going on, while we know what season it is, you will be the one that the thief of the night will come in for. You will not realize what is happening. And until you do, it might be too late. Because when you do, it will be too late. Because he'll be here. And everything you could have done to further his kingdom will end. And how are you going to be a good and faithful servant if you went to a church or led a church that while you had, your congregants did not? While you lived comfortably, your congregants starved or were homeless, lost their jobs. If you are a leader of the church and you have more than the least of these of your church, you have a problem. And you need to actively start working towards fixing that. And the only way to do that is returning your church to a biblical church. Remove every woman from the position of leadership immediately. disregard their guidance. It is told to you by Paul to do that. Use Paul as your legal. Use the word as your lawyer. And if they disagree with the word, they disagree with Christ because the gospel is God breathed. And Paul is his extension of that. The epistles are our instructions as modern Christians on how to live. And I've seen very few church leaders do that. Share this to everyone who's patriotic. Share this with everyone who thinks America is a God bless America, rah, rah, ree. And ask them, what does your church do for the least of these? And I'm not talking about support groups. And I'm not talking about get togethers. If your church is not actively engaged in a charity of someone they can name and met themselves, not donating to a faceless corporation, not donating to a cause overseas, what are you doing for the least of these in your own church? If there's someone in your church that is going without, you should cancel every foreign aid. Your job is to take care of your congregants in your church, not some faceless corporation that you're never going to meet. Your missionary work starts in your own church. And if you forego that, I spit. I'll let you know when I finish my epistles, because I plan on personally handing them out to pastors I know, to leaders of churches that I know. And maybe your church pastor will listen. And I need you guys to spread the word too. Because until things change, the church is dead. It is a fetid corpse rotting on the side of the road. At least that's how we treat it today. Optional, ugly even, uncomfortable to be at. If that's your church, you got some work to do. And if you want help, read the epistles, study this apostle, all of it. If you studied and believed what this apostle says about the church, the church is what you do with other people who are Christians. It's not the building. It is everything you do every day. Because where two are gathered in his name, he is there. That's church. And if you're not spending it glorifying him, you're wasting your time.